हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल। लास्ट वीडियो में हमने पर्सनल प्रोनाउन सीखा था, सब्जेक्ट, एंड इन दिस वीडियो वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट वर्ब्स. सो विदाउट डिले लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. Los kids. So let's look at lesson 14, A1 lesson 14, verbs. In German we also say Verben. Okay, so what are we going to see in today's video? The objectives are, first we are going to look at what is a verb. First we are going to understand that, and then we are going to look at the structure of a verb, and then we are going to understand what are regular verbs and what are irregular verbs. So, was sind Verben? What are verbs? It's a very basic question, not only related to German. It's a very basic question that we have learned in our school days also. So, what are verbs? A verb describes an action. So, the structure of a sentence depends on the verb. Without verb, the sentence is incomplete. So, for example, ich spiele Fußball. So, here spielen is a verb. The verb here is spielen, and this is conjugated. That we will see further. What is conjugation? How the verbs are conjugated, so on and so forth. So let's look at the verb structure. Let's analyze verbs now. So this form of the verb is known as infinitive form. So like I said in the previous slide, spielen. Hence the example of a verb. Let's say lernen. Lernen means to learn. Now each infinitive form has a stem, which we say in German verb Stamm, and an ending, which we say in German Endung. So all verbs in infinitive form has either the ending en or n. So either the verb has ending en or n. This way you could easily recognize the infinitive form of a verb. So in this example, lernen, which means to learn, the verb stem, the stem of a verb is this, and as you could see, I have marked it with an arrow, and the ending en is an ending. So that is what the verb structure is. We have an infinitive form, then we have a stem of a verb, and then we have ending. Now let's look at some more verbs in infinitive form. You know them, you must have heard in some or the other videos, and the best way to remember a verb is to remember its infinitive form. So let's say heißen is to be called, sprechen is to speak, kommen is to come, wohnen is to live, hören is to hear, machen is to do. And in all these verbs, if you see, in all these verbs, you see that the ending is en, and hence it is red color. So all of the verbs has ending en. So we either have the ending n or we either have the ending en. Now, however, when we make a sentence, the verb has to be conjugated. That is what the rule is in German. The verb has to be conjugated. Now we will see how the verb is conjugated. Verb conjugation. Now here are two examples. As you could see, both the sentences have same verb, kommen. Kommen is the verb here. So as you could see, both the sentences we have used kommen as the verb. Now the first sentence is Ich komme aus Indien, and the second sentence is Kommt ihr aus Japan? Now the conjugation of the verb depends on the subject of the sentence. So as you could see, I have circled, I have marked an arrow because this is a verb, and the conjugation of the verb depends on the subject in the sentence. So what is the subject here? Ich. That we have already learned in our previous video in lesson 13. If you have not watched the video of personal pronoun, I will paste the link in the description below. You can go and watch that video. Now in the first sentence, it's ich, and in the second sentence, it's ear. So we have learned pronouns We have learned personal pronouns in our previous video, and the common is conjugated as per the subject, which is ish, comma, and ear conjugation is comed. So we have discussed this in detail. The verb conjugation, what is the ending when we conjugate with ish, what is the ending when we conjugate with verb, with ear. So you could go and watch that video in detail. Now, verb conjugation of the verb depends on two most important things that we have also covered in our previous video. Firstly, the person, whether the person is first person, second person, or third person. Secondly, whether this person is in singular or plural. And for all these we have pronouns again, which we have already learned. So every verb is conjugated according to the personal pronouns. Hence, knowing personal pronoun is very, very important in German. Hence, please go and watch the video on personal pronouns. Now let's come to our next objective, which is verbing, but we have two kind of verbs. We will further learn that we have more forms of verb, but in this video I'm just going to focus on two kind of verbs, regular verbs and irregular verbs. Now, regular verbs, which we also say regelmäßige Verben, and irregular verbs we say unregelmäßige Verben. So apart from these rules, apart from the rules that we have discussed so far, we will also come across two types of verbs in German: regular verbs, regelmäßige Verben, and irregular verbs, unregelmäßige Verben. So knowing this is very important. Now, what are regelmäßige Verben? What are regular verbs? It is also known as schwache Verben. It is also known as schwache. Schwach means weak. So it is also called weak verbs. Regelmäßige Verben are also called weak verbs. Now, how do we differentiate between regular and irregular verbs? So regular verbs are called weak verbs, and the verb stem, which means the verb stem, doesn't change in regular verbs. So when we conjugate this verb, we keep the verb stem as it is. We keep the verb stem. So in learning, the verb stem is lernen, and if we see the conjugation with personal pronoun du, it is lernst. Hence, the verb stem is as it is, and it is not changing. So we just have to add the ending according to the subject. So with do, the ending is st. So that is, in this case, do is the subject and the conjugated verb will be lernst. Hence, you have to remember that the regular verb, in regular verbs, the verb stem doesn't change. Now let's look at irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are also called strong verbs. Stark is strong in German, and hence it is also known as starke Verben. Now, how do we differentiate from regular to irregular verbs? Now, in regular verbs, the verb stem doesn't change. In irregular verb stem changes in certain cases. Okay, so in a case of unregelmäßige Verben, the verb stem change. So when we conjugate this verb, the verb stem changes and the ending is added as per the subject. So in this case, we have taken the verb sprechen. Okay, sprechen is irregular verb. Sprechen means to speak. So in this case, do is the subject and the ending is st. Okay, the change in the verb stem will take place, but the ending remains. So if you could see that this is the verb stem. So if you see here, the verb stem is changing. It is spricht. It is not sprecht. It is spricht. So I, if you see, is in the red. So the verb stem will change. The verb stem will change, but the ending remains. So there are some irregular verbs which we will also see in detail. Unfortunately, there is no formula to remember irregular verbs because there are many irregular verbs, and it will only come with practice over time. As you conjugate more verbs, you will understand uh, which verbs is irregular and which verb is regular, whose verb stem changes, whose verb stem doesn't change. Now, unregelmäßige Verben and regelmäßige Verben. So here are some examples that I have, collected for you. Some examples, I know there are many, but just to have a glance, for example, regelmäßige Verben would be heißen, wohnen, machen, spielen, studieren, arbeiten, and the meaning of each of these verbs are given on the right hand side in English. Now let's look at unregelmäßige Verben, irregular verbs. So schlafen, essen, sehen, nehmen, treffen, fahren. And again, the English meaning of each of these verbs are given on the right side. So in these verbs the stem doesn't change, and in these verbs the stem changes in certain cases. Okay, so I hope that you could understand something. I hope this topic was clear, and if you have watched the video till the end, if you have understood the topic, then do give a thumbs up, and do share and subscribe. You know the drill, and I will see you guys in the next video with another topic. Till then, bye and enjoy learning German.